But in other news, need y'all to check out my Erin.
That's so nice.
Underrated lady.
Young, black, and gifted. We do it for the culture.
Say it again. For that look.
Underrated lady.
This is the Young Black and Gifted Network, and I am back. I know it's been a while since you've seen us, but I'm glad to be back and I have my beautiful, lovely guest here with me today. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. It's Jasmine. We're back again. Happy to be back.
Right. And again, like I said, so this right here is Black and Unscripted, where we talk about a wide range of things and we review movies, TV shows, and things of that nature. This is one of my favorite ones to do, especially with Jas. Me and Jas get to work with one another and carry it out together. So I'm gonna give Jas the keys, let her drive this thing, and we're gonna get this thing rolling. What you got today?
So we dived into the Sopranos. So today we're going to give our take on what we think about the series.
Absolutely.
We'll get into a breakdown of some of the characters, the plots, and we'll rate them as we go along.
Okay. Sound good to me, man. This was one of my, we watched a few series and movies together, but this was probably one of my favorite movies to get into. Like I'm a big time mob movie fan, and this epitomized what mob culture and mob life was for me.
Right.
So yeah, I like this one. This was a good one. So what you got? Where we starting at?
So first, let's introduce the series, give a description, just in case you're not familiar with it. Like I wasn't familiar with it, but you did introduce me.
Right.
So the series revolves around Tony Soprano, played by James Gandolfini, R.I.P.
Rest in peace.
A New Jersey-based Italian-American mobster who struggles to balance his family life with his role as the leader in a criminal organization, which he reluctantly explores during therapy sessions with psychiatrist Jennifer Melfi. So Sopranos is 6 seasons. So first we'll start out with giving our rating overall.
Right.
1 through 5. Movie stubs.
I might be a little biased if I engage or indulge myself with the movie, especially like I said, I'm a mob fan. I'm a fan of that culture, that lifestyle, especially the depictions of them. I'm a fan of it, so I gotta go 5. I gotta go 5 on this one for sure.
I will give it a 5 as well.
Okay.
I think since when we began it, we were locked in.
Right.
It was one of those, what do they call it, binge watching?
Right.
We definitely binge watched it, and I was interested.
How long would you say it took us to finish?
Ooh, I want to say a month.
Yeah, because we had a little stride there where we may have we got a little stagnant. We might have fell asleep on a few episodes.
Right.
We had to go back. So yeah, okay, I call it a month. That last season was pretty lengthy.
It was about less than 20
Yeah,
episodes,
close to 20,
but
yeah.
close to it.
Yeah.
So definitely a 5 for me. First, we'll get into the story. What do you think? What would you rate the story? And let's try to stay away from like spoiler alerts,
Okay,
guys,
okay.
just in case someone's interested in it.
Right.
We are going to talk about the ending.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So story. What do you say? Storyline, story plot.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was good. Again, it for me it epitomized like mob culture. A little dramatized with some of the things that did take place, but nonetheless, I think it was on point in how they depicted it. They did a good job at focusing in on Tony. It was rarely that a character was introduced or they had a storyline that didn't somehow, some way tie into Tony.
Right.
So I thought that was great, especially with him being the face of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was good. I thought it was overall good. I don't have any complaints about it. I don't.
I would agree with that. Also, as far as like mob culture goes, I think they stay true to it.
Yeah.
Like, the mob is big on family, and it was focused a lot around family. There's rules.
Right.
And there were different times where, somebody might have broke the rules and this was the consequence.
Right.
And that's on brand for the mob. So I can't think of it was very realistic. That's the word I'm looking for.
I would agree. Yeah, and the only thing that was a little different for me was like the depiction of Jersey mafia. You know, being from Pennsylvania, outside of Philly, I kind of like get an idea of how they are and what they're like, and obviously New York, that's like the epitome of the mob. So you get a good idea with that, with all the classic movies, Godfather, Goodfellas. What's your favorite one?
Bronx Tale.
Bronx Tale. Those are all New York based ones, but that's what was interesting about this one was that it was Jersey. You know,
Right.
even though they had Dillons with New York, they were Jersey based.
Right.
Mhm.
So characters. Um, as far as like, do you think they did a good job giving each character, um, a story? Like, did you feel like you went without, like,
Mm-mm.
right?
They really even it was so good. Like it was at a point in time while watching it this time with you that I'm like, dang, like I know that was fired during the time in which it happened.
Right.
Product placement,
Right.
adding, bringing on guest stars. They were hitting it out the park. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but as far as characters, I think that they did again. Like I said, I think they did a good job at introducing characters and tying them to the main character.
Yep.
And I think that's what with characters that had whether they were short lived or if they were if they were throughout a couple of seasons or the entire
Mhm.
season. I think that's what helped those characters is because they were somehow some way tied into the main character.
And I think I know the answer to half of this question, but
Right.
who was your favorite character and who was your least favorite character?
Okay. Tony, obviously. He's the boss. He again, we don't want to have no spoiler alerts, but basically the I guess the obstacles that he faced as a leader, and how he figured it out. He always figured it out. You know what I mean? He had spoiler alert obviously is in the
It's been
description.
how long? How long
Right,
since?
but still, we want to give people this may be the interesting,
Right.
the introduction to somebody, right?
That's true.
So, but it says that you read it in the description that he was going to see a therapist, right?
Yes.
And even how he balanced that with his day to day as a mob boss, I thought it was good. And he had his struggles, but the main thing was he had to keep that under wraps. He couldn't allow his cohorts to figure that out about him because it would probably have him lose his position, if not his life.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think he did a good job at maintaining the two. My least favorite character
Least favorite.
off top, I don't have none. I think everybody like it's nobody that I'm like, you know what, I don't like that person. Is it somebody? Am I missing somebody? Am I forgetting something? Is it
I
something?
just know you better not say Carmela.
No. Absolutely not. Carmela, no, she's solid. She's solid. I wouldn't say she was my favorite, but I definitely wouldn't call her like my least favorite. But if I
Right.
had to pick a least favorite, it would be Tony's mom and or Janice.
That's a good one. That's
Yeah.
a good one. Yeah.
And I would say Tony's mom being like the least favorite because she was just doing anything. And that's the hard part too. Like it was still his mom.
Right.
So he had to get back to that at some point in time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even with how she basically helped plot his death.
Yeah.
He had to live with that, and he took care of her until when she passed away.
Yeah.
He was there. He was affected by her passing on. But that's another thing. What, are you gonna break down and cry as the mob boss? He can't.
Right.
But you can easily see that he was affected by it. He stopped. His life. You could see in that moment when they told him that his mother passed away, he stopped in that moment. You feel me?
Yes.
But I say she my least favorite character because all she had to do, if Tony would have probably been a lot more dangerous had he had like his mom on his side. Like, you feel me? Like if she was working with him, she was just in the mix doing anything.
That's true.
Yeah.
I have so many favorite characters, but if I had to I would say my top favorite would be, my number one is Christopher.
Okay.
Christopher is Tony's cousin.
Right.
Christopher, he wanted to get away from the mob, but it was not he wanted to get away from it, but he just had something that none of the other guys had. Like, that passion outside of the mob. You know, him wanting to break into the entertainment industry, I think really helped to like build him as a character, even though he had his struggles as far as, you know, drugs
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it led to what it led to.
Would you say what was his biggest problem, Adriana or drugs?
Loyalty to Tony. Loyalty to Tony was Christopher's biggest
Okay.
problem. Because I mean, I know in the mob world it's not okay to pack your stuff up and just pursue your dream.
Yeah.
But I think knowing who Tony is, I don't even think Tony would have. I think he would have understood
Yeah.
because he would rather that than
With
the alternative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I get that.
But he was so loyal to Tony that I think that was his biggest downfall.
Mhm.
Adriana was one of my favorite characters.
Mhm.
She did make some mistakes, but I even think her mistakes could have been attributed to Tony.
Mhm.
Um,
That's what I was saying too. Like everybody is
tied in.
to Tony
That's a
some
good.
way.
Yeah, that's true.
Because even when she's thinking she's fighting with the the reality of her situation and
Right.
trying, maybe I should try to help or not do it. Yeah, she was tied in. She was tied up a lot because of Tony.
Right.
Even being tied up because of Christopher is tied up because of Tony.
Because of Tony.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Like how everything comes back to Tony.
Yeah.
So he, you know, we had the conversation about him being not formally a boss,
Right.
but it kind of came natural to him.
Yeah.
And his life just shaped out that way.
Yeah.
As far as my least favorite character, what's her name?
Sister
The Russian.
with the leg missing. Oh, the girlfriend. I could see that. I can't. Irene.
Tony's Gumar.
Yeah, was it Irene?
Irene.
Yeah.
Tony's Gumar. I just thought, you know, she was his Gumar for however long, but she just was too off
Then
the
we
rails.
debate about that. What was the debate about her? That
If Tony
I
loved
said that.
her,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
I said no, Tony don't love
And love her,
nobody.
right.
He loves his family. That's it.
Right.
But I think she was my least favorite character because she just made herself too present
Mm-hmm.
in Tony's life and didn't, you know, really play her part.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she was my least favorite character. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Honorable mentions for favorite characters. I don't.
Bobby.
Oh, Bobby Bacala. Okay. Rest in peace. Bobby Bacala. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for me, it would be. I really liked Paulie. It was unfortunate that he didn't play out like how I would have liked, but I really like Paulie because to me he a pit. Like when I think like mobster, he is Paulie.
Yes.
You like the look, the give up. What is it? Oh,
yeah, that's what it was.
Paulie is like the epitome of that to me, you
Yeah.
know. And I would say maybe second it probably be Sil.
Sil was good. He was so solid.
Yeah.
I think like from the beginning to the end, Sil never like strayed from, you know, being committed to his position. Sil was considered a what?
Was he consigliere? I would say
so.
yeah, that's second. Basically, he Tony's, and if you see him and Tony's relationship, basically the consigliere basically consults with the boss or the captain, whoever's in charge.
Right.
They consult with them, and then I think that makes them the net. I would think it's the underboss. I gotta look at a chart, but if I'm not mistaken, the consigliere is the second in line. That's why when Tony did go down, Sil was next to go in line.
Stepped up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can move on to production value.
Okay. A1.
Yes.
A1. Like that was one of the things that I picked out about it too was the production value, like the depictions, you know, how they shot the episodes,
Right.
you know, the production based around each given episode.
Right.
I thought it was top notch.
And that's I would say that's on brand for like it's an HBO show.
Yeah.
So even during that time frame, HBO just brings like this certain realism like
Mhm.
to any series, and I think The Sopranos was true to that.
Mhm.
Even when it comes to like the violent scenes, what would you say like as far as the most like gruesome of the hits? Like, because that
Um,
plays in the production value because we want to believe that it's true. Like, you know,
yeah,
you kind of want to grimace. I know mine.
I want to say only, and this again, it's been a couple months since we last watched it, so
Right.
I'm like off top and freestyling a lot of this,
Hmm.
but off top, I'm gonna say um the Phil Leotardo hit. That's the last season
Yes.
when they run up on him,
Yep.
shoot him in the head, and then he falls underneath the car,
Yes.
and the car she loses it,
Yeah.
and the car rides over his head, and then the young boy,
Yep.
remember the young boy threw up,
Yeah.
like that type, yeah. So even though they didn't show it, you felt it. You
Right.
follow me? So I would say that, John.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say the scene with okay, so after what happened with what's his name? The one that was the head of the construction site, but then they found out
Vito.
he was gay, Vito.
Yeah.
So when one of the construction people came to the bar where they were having, I would say Sunday dinner. That looked like they were getting
I'm
ready.
talking about what? What bar? The gay bar?
No,
Oh,
no, but the gay bar was.
That's what you call Sunday.
They were in the back of the butcher shop. They were in the back of the butcher shop and they were preparing food.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
preparing
that was crazy.
food. And they just like, that scene was pretty gruesome. Like,
That was Sil, and I can't remember the other character's name.
yes.
But it was he and Sil, but it was him. It was the other guy that started it. Sil just kind of like jumped in on it.
Right. Right.
Right, and they killed him.
Yeah, and Steve Buscemi, who played Tony's cousin.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That hit.
Yeah. Tony, his name, he was Tony T or Tony B or something like that, but it's good.
Right. When you know, when that hit went down, I think that
Yeah.
took me by surprise. Like,
Yeah.
not only the story, but just the way that they built it.
Yeah.
That was good. And then I think like I would think they were on what's it called? On scene as far as shooting the scenes. Like, I don't know if it's a stage
Right.
or if they're at
Nah,
like,
that gives definite like outside, like got the block off. Yeah, they in the mix
That's
with
what
that. Yeah, I don't think if anything that's one hell of a stage. And I think, hold on.
we're going to discuss the plot. So
Okay.
what do you think about the series of events? It spanned over how many years?
I know I'm gonna just say the series was probably from what was that 99, 97, 99 to 2004. I think
Mhm.
so let's call it a 5, 6 year span. Let's say a year for each
Right.
series, right?
Right.
So for the sake of being creative, let's say 6 years.
Yes.
All right.
I think even okay, so the plot, like watching the story go, like as time goes along, I think it flowed naturally. Like
Yeah.
even watching the kids grow up,
Everybody grew up.
everybody grew up. Tony,
Yeah. Everybody evolved. Even Carm, like her character.
yeah,
Everybody evolved throughout that time frame.
Tony Jr.
Yeah.
Right.
No, Anthony.
Anthony.
Well, yeah. AJ.
Anthony.
AJ is what they call him. Anthony Jr.
AJ is like my biggest tale of like how much time passed.
Right.
Even like even with Meadow went from, like a young lady, like teenager into a woman.
Yeah.
But I think she had more of a time period where she was a woman. Whereas
Absolutely. I agree.
yeah, whereas AJ, he just like
Sprouted.
yeah, and the different phases he went through,
Mhm.
that would give us a sign of how much time has passed.
Mhm.
The old guys got older.
Mhm.
I forgot to mention Junior, by the way. Like we
Right.
haven't talked about
Right.
Junior. But even as time progressed with Junior, he was pretty like, Junior was an older guy. But he started to, I don't want to say deteriorate, but he started to age.
Yeah.
Even like up until the end, like his mind was going, his body was going. Whereas in the beginning he could communicate. By the end,
Right.
he
It was
was
over.
kind of
He didn't even know. He didn't even know whether he was coming or going.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So also a fan of the plot. That plays into my 5
Yeah,
score.
I would say the same though. I would agree. I think they did a good job at progressing the storyline too. Yeah,
Hmm.
so yeah, A1 on that.
Did you think? Did you think so? Melfi, Tony's psychiatrist.
Hmm.
There was a period of time where like they had an interest in each other.
Hmm.
She was more so, I would say, like fascinated by him,
Hmm.
and he's just Tony.
Right.
So obviously he would be drawn to her. He was attracted to her. She's intelligent, and he can talk to her, which is something I think he has a hard time with
His
any
wife.
with his wife,
Yeah.
with with
To go back to
any.
his mom.
It goes back to his mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you think the whole time I thought something was going to go down?
Like they would get involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Like the whole time I was kind of like bracing myself for like the moment that it would happen. Um, did you think so? Or did you think
Yeah,
she
because of Tony though. Not so much because of her, but because of who Tony is. And when she began to go through her little phases, I said, yeah, she probably gonna crack.
right.
But I think that she did a great job
Yes.
at holding him off
Yes.
and honoring her position because she only knew him because of her profession.
Yep.
She, she did a good job at not, she wanted to tell him when something bad happened to her.
Hmm.
She wanted to tell him so bad to get him because she knew she could. She did a great job at upholding her position in Tony's life, even when it seemed like she was going to be a little like she was fascinated by him and something could happen. I think she did
Right.
a good job at being stand up in that position.
I agree.
Yeah.
She had a that during that time period where she went through what she went through. That I would say the psychiatrist, like, she kept me like on the edge of my seat because, and I imagine Tony went through this too. Like, you never knew what she was going to give you that day,
Yeah.
and that was interesting for it not only to happen with him but like the audience too.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Not exactly. So when you talk about plot and even like a screenplay depiction, they did a good job at building the characters so you could get involved, so you could get personal with them.
right,
With the main characters, you felt the sense and knew what their whole thing was. Even if you didn't understand it, like why are they doing that, you felt that. You know what I mean? So they did a great job with that.
got it. So moving on to the outcome, like, how do you
Hmm.
feel about the outcome of the series? Um, we can definitely get into the ending,
Hmm.
even the different things that are said about it.
Hmm.
How do you feel about it?
I think it's so I'll just talk about the ending. I think it's unfortunate for Tony because Tony had put in all that work. And even when you just think about it, like he really didn't have a successor. Is a successor the person that comes after you?
Yes.
He really didn't have a successor because his son wasn't that. You know what I mean? Christopher, Christopher died, or what do you want to say about Christopher? Christopher died.
Uh,
Concerning Tony, you want to say he died?
Christopher died concerning Tony. Let's say that.
But so when he to me, the way the series ends, I think that he dies. I did even before we rewatched it. I watched plenty of like videos on it, and I just think that depiction, the way they did it, was to mirror that.
Hmm.
With the screen going black, and even Tony was on edge. He was on edge. He was on point, but he was on edge, right?
He was.
And even how it happened, how it just goes out. I don't think that with so much thrill, so much of a storyline, you just end it like that. You don't just end it like that. I
Right.
think it was a creative and clever way to end it. Again, because we're talking about how personable it becomes. I think that the way it ends was to give you to somewhat like a double entendre, like it's over. Like when it's done, it's done. It's
Right.
over like that. But
Right.
also too to give you an idea of like if somebody died, like I mean, I don't know too many people who have passed and came back and gave us an idea about how what it looked like or what it feel like.
Right.
But I can imagine that things go black.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or that's what some people may believe is what I'll say, right?
Right.
So I think they did a good job at how it ended. I think to start it with Tony and end it with Tony was on
Mhm.
brand. I just think it's unfortunate because once he dies, everything that he worked for goes down the drain.
Yes. I would I would say the same thing. I do think Tony died in that scene. I can't for sure, just like everybody else, say how it happened. I'm not so convinced that the guy went into the bathroom and got a gun and came out, which would they said would pay homage to the Godfather.
Right.
Which sounds good, but I don't know if I'm like completely bought into that idea. Tony had health problems.
Yeah.
You know, he could
That's
have
true.
he could
Could
have
have just croaked at the table. That's
he
another
could have
thing.
croaked right there. Even like
Yeah.
just, him being with his family. That could be something that was like overwhelming for him.
Yeah.
And that could have ultimately been the reason. But I do think that happens in that moment. I don't think that the story continues and we don't know about it. Like
Yeah.
is
We would
he
have
definitely
known
died.
about it.
Yeah,
They would have had a way. I think
something.
even with what you're saying, I think that was intentional with the producers and the director to
Right.
create your own ending. That's something that I saw. Like, when the creator talks about it, or the writer, the director talks about it,
Right.
he wanted to get to leave that also.
Right.
So it's a bunch of different whatever your ending is like, whatever your new beginning is like for you. But
Right.
but even what you said, that introduced a new idea that I'd never even thought of. You know what I mean? So
It was I'm and people were like outraged at the ending. Like at the
yeah,
time that it happened,
yeah,
I was okay with it. Like
I was too.
yeah, it was.
But that goes back to my life, my fascination with like the mob culture. Like, I
Mhm.
know that happens. That happens
Right.
in that world. So it's not far fetched
Right.
that Tony would die. Especially he had been shot multiple times. You
Yes.
feel me? He killed people, so it wasn't
Right.
like a far fetched idea for me.
Right. So I would say 5 in each category.
Hmm.
I don't feel like I went without. I feel like every character was, we fulfilled their storyline. There are people that I wish lived that didn't. There are things that happened that I wish didn't, but that's a part of
Yeah.
any show that you're interested in.
Right.
So yeah, thank you for introducing me.
You already know. We got some more. I think that was a good way to kind of like review it overall, but it's so much there. I think we could do like breakdowns. I think whether we
Absolutely.
decide to break down characters,
Right.
storylines,
Right.
seasons, there's so many different things that we could potentially do with that. It's been 20 years since it's last been on air.
Right.
And here it is, it still has life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? 20 years later. So I think we could definitely come back and dive a little bit more into it. You feel me?
Yes.
But I think this was a good way. I think this was a good way to just like overall cap it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Outline it. Yeah, that was a good job.
Great show.
Anything before we go? You good?
I think we're good. R.I.P. James Gandolfini once again.